Good evening and welcome to the Kuhn Academy for this installment of AP US History, where we're not just learning history, we're making history. All right, so here is Origins of the Cold War Part 2. And for those of you 80s nerds out there, that was music from Rocky IV, which probably is the best Cold War propaganda that exists, at least from my generation. Okay? All right, so the Cold War really can trace its roots back to the early parts of World War II. All right, we're going to start here by talking about how the Soviet Union was resented the fact that they were excluded from the Manhattan Project. We hope to remember that that's the project dropping the atomic bomb, and when the bomb was dropped, the Soviets really weren't made aware of it. They had an idea Russia was trying to build one, but they didn't know that we had actually done it and completed it. So when this is supposed to be your allies, when you keep a secret from your best friend, you can kind of see where they would get a little upset with that. You can even take this a step further back that we don't mention on the slide here, but also when we talk about opening a second front in Europe, Russia had been fighting Germany since 1941 on the Eastern Front, but it's not until 1944 that the Allies invade France. So Russia felt that the U.S. was kind of purposely dragging their feet there, so Russia would be greatly weakened by Germany, and then the U.S. and Britain could kind of come in as from a position of much more strength and kind of dominate the post-war discussions. All right. Next up, we see tensions between Germany and Russia over Poland and Germany. Obviously, Russia wants Poland as that buffer and protector from Germany. They also wanted to be communist, so they have some protection and a country they can control right on their borders. U.S., obviously wants to keep Poland free, seeing as it was a newly created nation after World War I, and also the amount of Catholics there, and with the Soviet Union kind of squashing religion, that's going to be a potential problem there. And then with Germany, we're going to divide that up into four quadrants, and the U.S. wants to see Germany kind of remain strong and be a potential trading partner that's obviously controlled by the U.S., where the Soviets want to see it broken up so they can't threaten and challenge them. So what initially happens is each ally in the war gets a section of Germany. All right, Russia gets this part here. This, I believe, is the British sector. This is the U.S., and then France gets this section down here. Quickly, the U.S., France, and Britain are all going to kind of tear down the borders and kind of merge this into West Germany, where the Soviet Union will keep their half as East Germany over here. And with Soviet Union getting the capital of Berlin, that's also going to be sectioned off into four different chunks. This is not when the Berlin Wall is built. This is happening in 1945 at the end of the war. We'll see a wall built in 1961 by Mr. Khrushchev, who takes over for Stalin in the 50s. All right, so this is not the building of the Berlin Wall, but Berlin is still sectioned off based on the interest of each of the Allied powers. All right, cause number 3 of the Cold War is the obvious American ideal of capitalist democracy colliding with the Soviet Union's idea of a communist state and a totalitarian state where the government has total control. So to make sure we have our apples and apples comparisons, capitalism in America is going to compare to communism in the Soviet Union, and then the democracy of the United States is going to compare with the totalitarian state of Stalin. Okay, so those two ideologies are obviously going to lead to a conflict. All right. Now, once FDR passes away, Truman takes over, and he is going to have several disagreements with Soviet Foreign Minister Molotov over what's going to happen in Poland. Truman wants to see Poland remain free, as I mentioned earlier, protect capitalism there, protect the workers, etc. Whereas Stalin and the Soviets want to see that become this communist state. So that becomes a verbal feud and some bitter arguments between the two, which creates even more tension. This kind of makes sense. It also says something about our country here, but the American public had this hatred of the Nazis for so long throughout the 30s and 40s that they just kind of transferred that to the Soviets. So that kind of implies that we love to hate as in our country, which isn't necessarily something that's true, but you usually think about it, there's always an enemy that America kind of has to have throughout. So it was a convenient transfer of the Nazis into the Soviets. All right. And then finally, Stalin announces a military buildup to ensure that the Soviet system will remain supreme, where the U.S. is going to be demilitarizing and tearing down some of their ships and things and their weapons, where the Soviet Union is going to build it up. So there's actually video footage of the U.S. blowing up B-29s and sinking submarines and things. Figured we have the atomic bomb, we don't need anything else. And Stalin took that as a vote of confidence, saying, "Well, if they're tearing down their military, well, look what we're going to do." And he's going to build up his military and build even more planes, even more ships, because he does not have the atomic bomb at this time. All right. So we're going to stop there for part 2, and then we're going to have one more part coming up here after break. So take a second, recharge your batteries, and we'll come back for part 3.